several Democrats with ambitions for 2028 flopped on foreign policy at the Munich conference. Watch this again.
Should the U.S. actually commit U.S. troops to defend Taiwan?
You know, I think that this is of course a very long-standing policy of the United States.
On Ukraine, what does victory look like?
You know, I do think that Ukraine's independence, keeping their land mass and having the support of all the allies, I think is the goal.
Oh dear. NATO Ambassador Matthew Whitaker joins me. Sir, Mr. Ambassador, you were sitting right next to AOC. What were you thinking when she made those statements, and what were the Europeans thinking?
Well, it's good to be with you, Stuart. I think the first thing is realize that the Munich Security Conference is the Super Bowl of the sort of Euro-Atlantic relationship. Obviously, if you have political ambitions, presidential ambitions, you go there to demonstrate that you have some foreign policy chops. And you know, on that panel that I was the third member of, those answers really, you know, fell flat, and I think it worries, you know, a lot of our allies that, you know, what happens in 2028 if one of these people is possibly the nominee, because, you know, they weren't serious, they weren't informed answers, and both of those answers have obvious policy behind them. And, you know, what it demonstrated to me, most importantly, is how successful President Trump has been on these issues and how he has really created a space where leadership was required. He's delivering that leadership, and the left is kind of left befuddled.
I've got another one for you, sir. Estonia's foreign minister is warning that NATO will launch strikes deep inside Russia if Russia invades the Baltic states. Do you think Putin is likely to make any kind of move on the Baltics?
We have created a security architecture within Europe through NATO and our allies that makes it, you know, very expensive and difficult to invade. You know, I think we need to be prepared. We need to be prepared for everything, and that's why we are encouraging our allies to become very capable, not only with deep strike capabilities, but also tanks and infantry, and, you know, next generation F-35 jets, along with all the other things. But, you know, I think getting into speculating about what would happen doesn't really acknowledge what's the quagmire that Russia finds itself right now on the battlefield in Ukraine, where they have gained 1% of territory in the last 3 years at a cost of almost 1 million soldiers.
I want to get back to Iran. Mr. Ambassador, Vice President Vance says the administration has what it takes to make sure Iran doesn't get a nuclear weapon. Okay. Is President Trump's patience wearing thin? He's clearly not a fan of these endless talks. Is he prepared to wait for 2 weeks to get the next round going?
I think he wants to be patient in a reasonable way. He's not going to wait forever, to your point. You know, all the decisions are in the hands of President Trump. He has all the options that he needs in this case. But at the same time, I think he wants to give the Iranians a chance to make a deal. But his red lines are very clear. One is that Iran can never have nuclear weapons. The number one state sponsor of terrorism that has destabilized the Middle East for decades can never have those types of capabilities to menace its neighbors. That's number one. And number two is that ultimately the people of Iran need to be free and need to be represented by a democratic government. And so I think in both those cases, President Trump has been pretty clear-eyed about this and communicated that to the Iranians, and we'll see if they are willing to make a deal. But President Trump holds all the cards right now in this situation.
Do you think our guys, the president, are prepared to give the Iranians an ultimatum? Hey, we want you to get rid of your ballistic missiles. And if you don't get rid of them within 2 weeks, we'll blow them up. Do you think we might say something like that? Because we've got a huge military force assembled.
Yeah, we're going to have 2 carrier strike groups and a lot of assets in the region. But that is a place from strength. And again, that's leverage. President Trump wrote a whole book on the art of the deal. And one of the things he talks about is gaining leverage in a negotiation. And certainly American firepower, which is unmatched across the globe, is great leverage. But we will expect that, President Trump has laid out what a deal looks like, what our expectations would be to take this to a diplomatic solution. And then the ball is in the Iranian court to answer, what is pretty clear from his perspective.
Got it. Mr. Ambassador, thank you very much for joining us. We hope to see you again real soon.